Hey everyone, welcome to On Point. This episode, we kind of get back into the roots and the weeds of what On Point was all about when we started it. Very technical podcast about arrow building, and we have Kyle Davidson on to basically discuss his math and science behind building an arrow. He's an engineer during the day, arrow builder at night, and so he applies that engineering towards building arrows and has equations and stuff. Really cool things of what he's doing here. And really appreciate his insight, and I enjoyed talking and learning from Kyle during this episode. One real quick thing, if you want to support the podcast, there's a bunch of ways you can do it. You can become a patron at www.patreon.com/onpointpodcast. You can donate whatever you feel like it. You can do it monthly. You can do it one time, whatever. And feel free to support us there. And then also, there's some free ways you can do it. You can leave us a review on iTunes. You can visit www.onpointpodcast.com. You can sign up for the newsletter, buy some swag, get links to the other content that I have coming out on the YouTube channel and stuff like that. So definitely tons of ways to support the podcast if you feel inclined, and we would love for you to do that. But outside of that, I will quit blabbering on. I want to get you guys into this episode with Kyle from DCA Custom Arrows. Yeah. Well, I'm excited, man. Let's get this thing going. So I've been talking about this episode for a while, and been kind of talking it up, because and as a disservice to you, when we first talked, you were reaching out to me wanting to do raps and stuff, and I was like, sure, yeah, let's make a cool rap. And long story short, I thought that's all you did. So yeah, and so. Oh, I was saying I was talking to somebody, and they're like, "Dude, he does way more than that. Like, that's like part of what he does." But he's like, "You should probably revisit that conversation with him." I was like, "Oh, okay." So here we are. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, you're by trade, you're an engineer. And so what I've been telling people is that, okay, we have an engineer here, and then now he's applying that to building arrows. And so if you can go into depth here of the whole part of you that I missed the first time we talked. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Hmm. Right, right. Right. Mm-hmm. Wow. So yeah, you're kicking ass. Yeah. Well, I'm curious to hear like when I'm going to take you back for a second because when you said you're researching and stuff, what were some things that you were kept coming across? What were some of these things that you kept seeing upon your research when you were digging into it? Hmm. Mm. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Oh shit. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Mm. So that brings me to one area that I want to hit is so you were talking about manufacturers testing the static spine earlier. You were talking about that and it's pretty much right at 2 pounds. If you look at it, it's 880 grams or like 1.94 if for the guys that are like Nazis. But like 2 pounds is pretty much it. So I say that because someone's going to correct us if we don't. um, no worries. And so when you're bending that, like you said, they're 28 inches apart, and then you have that weight there, and then what they don't do, from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is they don't do like quarter turn twists. They just measure one spot on that arrow. So basically, they're not like kind of like almost like a knock tuning it, but they're not twisting that arrow and measuring certain. They're not finding like the backbone basically. Um, it's just one. We're going to hang it from this spot on the arrow, wherever that arrow is, as long as it's 28 inches apart. We're going to do it with the knock facing up. We're not going to twist it a quarter turn and then redo it. So that's my understanding of it. Yep. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm. What was the yeah, what was the manufacturer that had more? Are you you're not affiliated with anybody, are you? Okay. Right. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm. Hmm. Mm-hmm. I want you to. So we covered static spine. I want you to, or if you want me to cover it, that's fine. But I want you to cover dynamic spine and kind of just explain that for the folks that are listening. Mm-hmm. Mm. It does, and there's also a few other factors. And so basically, just to make it really simple, it's how the arrow reacts once it's actually having the energy transferred from the bow to the arrow. It's what it's doing. Go ahead. Yeah. 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 And there's I don't know how we can not get into the weeds on this part too. I didn't plan on covering this, but so I do want to cover types of different cams here, and this is going to be very. You probably know where I'm going with this. There's more aggressive cams. There's less aggressive cams. You could have two 70-pound bows. One could spit out a 340. This is from my experience. One could spit out a 340 with a certain setup. That more aggressive cam could make that actual arrow a little bit weaker because it's just a little bit more aggressive and it's transferring that energy. I'm guessing faster or harder. Have you? Yeah. Would you? I mean, how do you take that in consideration in your equations and stuff, or walk me through that whole thing there too? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that SS is a sweet bow. I really like that bow. Yeah, yeah. So you covered a little bit about straightness, and I'm just going to tell you off my experience, and if it doesn't resonate with you, let me know. I trust your results more than mine because you have the math to support it. I just have my ability of knowing knowing what I can see based off of my shooting abilities and my tuning abilities. So you've got the math. So whatever you say, I would say supersedes what I say here. But so from my experience, when I'm building an arrow and I'm seeing point zero zero 0.006, point zero zero 0.003, point zero zero 0.001, I personally am actually more worried about the spine consistency than I am the actual straightness. I don't know what your thoughts are on that because if you have a really straight arrow but your spines like are all over the chart, then good luck. I don't know a lot of guys that could outshoot a point zero zero 0.006 to a point zero zero 0.003. I can tell the difference between a point zero zero 0.006 and a point zero zero 0.001 on a good day, but I mean it's pretty damn hard to outshoot the spine. I mean you if yeah. Do you have anything that you found that you could elaborate or expand on that? Mm. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, mm. Well, I've never thought about what you're saying there about you buy all these super straight arrows or super tight tolerances, but then you go home and you fletch them on a jig, and then you're introducing all these inconsistencies. And to take that even a step farther, you're using probably not the same exact amount of glue on each insert as well. So you're getting, I mean, you're getting as many inconsistencies as you want. You probably don't have the same amount of glue on your vanes. You're not using the same amount of epoxy on your spine or on your inserts or whatever it may be. You're introducing a lot of inconsistencies because I know on mine. I mean, I'm like, yeah, good enough. Like on my veins because I've never really noticed. If they're good, and they look good and they look straight, just eyeballing it. And I use a jig and everything. I don't. It has to be fairly off for me to go back and scrape that vein off and start over. Um, mm-hmm. Hmm. 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 Mm-hmm. Mm. At least minimum. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Hmm. I was gonna say you're gonna raise some eyebrows with that one there. Hmm. 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 So how did you arrive at the 18%? Hmm. Yeah. Right. 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 That makes sense. There are lighter GPIs out there. I was shooting Brent Valkyrie or Valkyrie's system. I think I was at 460 something, like a 20% FOC, and that thing was flying amazing. But he's got that whole system worked out, and he's using, when somebody tells me they have like a 20% or 22% FOC, that tells me more about the arrow than what's up front because you got to have a light GPI arrow to even get in that ballpark. Like I shot a cheetah one time, and I don't even know what those were. I want to say 6 GPI. Yeah, they're like speed freak arrows, and I mean just putting a regular insert and head on there. I think I was around like 12 to 14% FOC because the arrow's so light. So I mean, and then you're getting into usually a thinner walled, probably a little bit brittle arrow, and so you have to use a better component. There's a lot to it. I know I'm talking to preaching to the choir here. Have you played around with the really light GPI arrows, and have you found any that to be kind of a way to get people to that 18 to 20+%? Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Oh, thanks. He's a smart guy. But yeah, well, and I really like the Aeroflight and everything, but man, I'm with my Axis system and everything. After that episode, I had quite a few guys like, so you're gonna shoot Valkyrie now? It's like I like my Aero setup, man. Like I like where I'm at. And Brent's system is amazing, but you pay for it. I mean, you are paying for it, and I don't have $400 just laying around just to switch systems real quick. Like I tags not gear is or buy tags, buy hunts, not gear, and it sure as heck wouldn't make the budget bow build I did this year by any means, but yeah, I mean it's just mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, for sure, for sure. I do want to go over. There's so many things that we could go over here, but so from your favorite setup, where would you? So if you were setting me up, I have a just based off of your formulas and your charts and stuff, 28-inch draw, IBO. Let's just call the IBO 340, and then what was your other thing that you needed? Oh, 70 pounds. Yeah. hmm Yeah. Well, I've been shooting 340s for 10 years, and I know how much weight I can add at what length. And then I built them to where I'm over spine, so I know how heavy I can get up front before I'm over. So I'm curious to see what your system says because I've thought about going to a 300, but then I don't, the GPI on the Axis are just too heavy for me. If they made like a 8 grain GPI Axis, which I'm sure they do with one of their other models, but I'd probably go down to a 300 and then get a little bit more FOC. But hmm um, well, I'm just going off of past specs. We could just say that was the RX-1 turbo. It's probably faster than that, but it's probably like three. Yeah, it's probably to be 345 somewhere in there. Yep. hmm Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure. I think it was close to like 6 inches was close to the brace height on that. Right now I'm shooting the BTX 31, and I forget it's a pretty quick bow for what it is. Just because of the GPI. I do like the Axis 340s, just because of the GPI. Mm-hmm. Okay. So with that, it would be a 300 spine. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Interesting. Have you used the Focus system at all on the Black Eagles? Hmm. Yes. Yeah, I really like the system because it makes broadhead alignment. Like if you're one of those guys that wants to align your veins with your broadheads, it makes it pretty slick. Yeah. Yeah, super slick. I mean, you don't have to have the G5 squaring device anymore, really, if you're using that. But have you? I've been wanting to buy those and then try and get those onto the Axis. Have you tried getting? Is that because I was talking to Corey Miller one time? He said he got it to work one time using the Focus on the Axis. The right, right, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Inter- mm-hmm. No, because you're leading into an area I was wanting to go was which was your building process, and you've told me that part before, and so I kind of like I used to detail cars a long time ago, and I always heard that if the more time you spend in the first step of detailing a car, the less amount of time you're going to spend in the last step detailing the car. And so it's kind of like the more time you spend on the first, before you start shooting the arrow, building the arrow, you're going to spend less time after you screw that broadhead in, figuring, spending time scratching your head wondering what's going on. And I've been talking to Chris Dunlap, who's an arrow builder too, buddy of mine from Elk River, and he's like, man, the just going over his system and stuff, and he's like, just what he's doing with arrow selection, arrow building. He's like, the more I refine my process, the less I have to do, and it's just yeah, yeah, no, go ahead, man. Uh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Mm. Hmm. Really. Mm-hmm. Right. Hmm. Right. Right. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Right. Well, no, and so you have a spine gauge is what you're using to get your backbone, basically. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. No worries, no worries. Yeah, so what I do is basically I knock tune and spine index from there and stuff, and that's just part of my process. And if I am building a batch that which I'm gonna be doing here very soon, maybe I've already done a video series on it, but so maybe I'll do a video series on my next batch. But if guys are wanting to go check that out, you can just go onto my YouTube channel and check out um, kind of how I shoot uh, tighter groups with broadheads in 3 steps, and it's very basic, but there's a lot of things in there that guys are getting out of it. So I basically do kind of what you do. I don't have the spine checker there, but I do the bear shaft and the knock tuning, squaring the arrow. I do clean out the inside of the arrow with a Q-tip before, just to get all that carbon dust out of there. Um, and I just follow my process. What was that? Yeah, same here. Yep. Yeah, and so everybody's kind of got their process here, but I'm still having to dick around with 1 to 2 arrows out of a dozen, and then but these I'm guessing you don't, because these guys that spend the little bit more time, like the Chris Dunlaps, they're getting down to almost every arrow, and I can get pretty much a dozen out of a dozen to shoot, but there's usually two problem children. Um, on average out of that dozen that I have to spend more time with, or eventually I just say, you know what, screw it. This is way more. This is not worth my time. So I'll just make that my grouse arrow or something. Yeah. Do you find that with your process at all, that you have usually a problem child or two in the dozen, or are you not getting that with your process? Really? Hmm. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's really impressive, and you're kind of going over a bunch of stuff here. I want to kind of focus on a few things. So if I was somebody and I was getting too weak of a spine or too stiff of a spine, you're going to tear differently. Um, would you go into that? And then I don't know why that is. Why the right if I'd be curious to hear why each one correlates to that tear. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm. Hmm. Right. Well, that's why I'm so close to getting a hooter shooter because the bro guys I think are getting one here, and it's like for my videos, like I like to shoot a lot, and I can shoot. I shoot just as good as most people do, if not better than the average guy, and it's just like, man, a hooter shooter would really bring home the points of a lot of these videos I try and make, and it would make it easy on me because I wouldn't have to like shoot multiple groups to wait until or shoot on like a really good day or something like that. It's like I feel like I'm never doing my test justice if I don't have a hooter shooter. It's like that's like the next step in my testing, just because that takes out my variable and completely puts it in the lap of whatever I'm testing. But um, right. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Shaky. Yep. Yeah. Yes, yeah, we've been we were actually working on the list today, and I think we might get together and do like a pre-episode on each other's podcasts and talk about what we're doing. I'm getting a lot of guys that are like suggesting things, and I love the feedback, and I got some guys that already have problems with the tests, and it's like, man, you don't even know what I'm testing or how I'm testing it. But yeah, I'm really jacked. I think our count was, we were originally shooting for 75, and we're trying like hell to get as many as we can. But I think Wes is starting to back that down towards 50. So yeah. Oh well, my wife might disagree after she sees the bank account, but but well, yeah, and we know we're getting these variables out of here. I think we're going to have a hooter shooter, like, and I'll tell you after we get off here because I don't want to ruin the surprise for all the listeners and stuff what we're going to do. But I've been picking a few guys in the industry's brains that I trust, and I'm like, I'm going to tell you what my tests are, and you're going to poke holes in them. and they're basically like, okay, yeah, I like that one. I like that one. Okay, there's a little bit wrong with that one. I'm like, okay, if that's all you guys got through all my tests, then I think we did a good job designing them. So it's I'm excited, not to get off topic there or anything, but yeah. I'm just hoping we can hit 50. 75 was awful ambitious, and hey, maybe we could still hit that. I don't know, but um, we'll see. We'll see. Do you have much of a I lost my question that I had here, but do you have a lot of guys that have broadhead tuning issues once you build them an arrow, or is it pretty much just plug and play? Uh-oh. Mhm. 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 Mm. Mhm. 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 Right. Mhm. Mhm. Mm. Mhm. 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 Yeah. Mhm. Yep. I've done that. Mhm. Well, my thing on yeah, my thing on vanes, man, and maybe I'm a little bit of a simpleton here, but there's a reason that most manufacturers are using the Blazer vanes. I think it's because they're widely accepted. I mean, I've never had a problem tuning Blazers. I've just the standard Blazers. I've never had a problem with them, so I've stuck with those. But I started branching out. I don't really like the AE. I mean, I'm sure they work great once they adhere, but I don't like having. I use NPV glue because it's fast. It's not the strongest out there, but it's fast. About 15 to 20 seconds per vein. I'm on to the next one, and I'm like, I don't have a lot of time, so I'm like, get me done. So I use the NPV, I use the Blazer veins. I tried using the Max Stealth Hunters and the AAE and stuff like that. And you just have to have the special glue and the bond, the bondage accelerator, all that bullshit. You're gonna get me on a soapbox here. If I have to buy special shit to use your product, I probably won't do it. So the AAE, you have to have. My glue won't work. Yeah, you got to have all that extra shit, and it's just like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Like I just been refusing it. But to answer your question, let's make it really simple. Veins work with surface area, right? Now there's different stiffness of veins. Obviously, as you know, I'm telling the audience this more. There's different stiffness of veins. The taller the vein, the more flexible it will be, depending on also the type of material you used. But basically, it works with surface area and resistance. So I tried using the Blazer heat veins the other day on a broadhead / arrow test. I was using the Day 6 arrows. I had a 4-fletch Blazer, a 3-fletch Blazer, and then a 4-fletch, a 3-fletch heat. We're going offset. None of these had a helical on them. And I was shooting great with all those arrows out to 80 yards. They were all within 2 inches of each other. I mean, they were all pretty much, they were grouping for all intents and purposes out at 80 yards. But you tossed a broadhead on there, and the low profiles, they weren't performing. And I think if I would have added a 4th on there, or even made it more of a helical, with a 4th, I think I could have got it to shoot. But if I was you as an arrow builder, I'd be like, listen here, I will make whatever you want, but I'm just gonna do it with Blazers because I know they freaking work. I mean, the Q2i are they're pretty similar to the Blazers. I'm not sure on the exact specs, but I think it's the QTI or whatever they're called. I might have that name wrong, but yeah, I've seen those. I have buddies that shoot them. They love them. I have guys that are really good shots that I'm friends with that use those, and that kind of got my eyebrows. I'm like, those guys are using them. I probably should take a look at them. But I've never mounted them before. Did those take a special pen or accelerant? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. Right. Right. Yeah. That's funny. Mm-hmm. 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 Mhm. Oh, you do. I have a boning right now. I should have a Blitzenberger, but I don't. I mean, really should get one. I just, it's low on the list because I really only fletch for myself and do my own arrows, right. And I might do my hunting partners before season, but for the amount of arrows I do, I should have a Bitzenberger, man. That's all there is to it. I should. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's my main. Oh, I say that's just my main hang up with them. I'm sure they're great. I'm sure they do a great job. I don't know. I feel jaded when I have to go out and buy something else. It's like almost like batteries not included, you know? Hmm. Oh yeah. What glue are you using? That's a secret. What about is uh is your uh is your epoxy a secret too? Mm-hmm. Hmm. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Hmm. Weird. Oh, that's interesting though. But well, yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I, I I bet you're probably right too. And yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry to cut you off. I imagine you're probably right. Mm. You know, one way to test that is to buy one of these annihilator broadheads because I asked him about that. Um, pretty much very. I asked him that exact question. I said, "Is your turbulence, preventing your veins from actually working?" He said, "No." But you could test that with those broadheads because if any broadhead's going to cause turbulence, it'll be that one right there in the air. It is. Yeah, you could do your own little test with that and see if you're getting, I mean, a broadhead should fly. I mean, if it's going to fly, it should fly. I mean, there's obviously, um, I'm not one of these guys that says any broadhead will fly out of a tune boat, because if you give me something and your broadhead's not like, for example, I could shoot a 300 grain broadhead, and then I'm like, well, any broadhead should fly, right? Here's a 300 grainer. Let's see how that thing flies. So I don't broad stroke at that, or like a gobbler guillotine. Like, I'm not gonna. So I don't subscribe to that mentality, but I agree with most of what that says. But yeah, I'd be really interested in seeing that, because that would be a really cool test, just to see if those do cause enough turbulence with those smaller profile vanes. Yeah, I've got the annihilators already. I plan on using them next month. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna get some rural. That's the number one. Last year it was the kudu I was getting asked about. This year it's the annihilator, and so everybody's asking me about it. It's like, let me build an opinion first. Like, I got it right now. It's just theory. Like, I don't know. So let me kill some shit with it first, and then I'll tell you what I think. Oh, for sure. Right, right. So, well, I think we covered a lot here, man. There's so much we could go into 5 episodes and not cover everything. But is there anything that we missed that you wanted to cover for the guys out there? Mm-hmm. 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 Mm. That's really cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there's one thing that I wanted to go over before we wrap this thing up, and we talked about a long time ago about the point of diminishing returns episode. Um, go. I've been telling people that I think you had some sort of equation that could help us with that. Go over that and tell me what kind of where you're at with that whole thing. This is going back to the Brian Roger conversation I had a long time ago, saying I want an equation that's like a calculator that's on the internet currently, like an arrow calculator, but it tells you at what point you have too heavy of an arrow and you're costing yourself momentum and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. 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 That makes sense, and also, yeah. I mean, there's so many variables because what if you're using, a 16 fletch versus a, 3 fletch? I mean, there's obviously going to be shed velocity differences, and it basically just your best way to put it is your ballistic coefficient, your coefficient of your projectile, your arrow, is going to change depending on exactly a bunch of different factors too. I imagine even shaft diameter probably even cuts down on it too, because that's just more surface area for crosswind or anything like that for it to affect. 70, yeah. Yeah. Really? That's way lighter than I was expecting. Right. Right. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. That's funny. Mhm. Yeah, I'm shooting 457 right now, so I feel like I feel like I'm validated, I guess, right there, because I'm only 3 grains off of your equation, but I would suspect it's probably higher. And as you twerk as you edit and like you mess with your equation, I wouldn't be surprised if your equation starts spitting out heavier arrows. Just from my experience and listening to just so many people talk about arrows and stuff. I mean, I've heard 8 grains per pound. I've heard 22 grains per pound now, or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I just want to know what the most efficient arrow is for my setup before I start losing momentum. I don't care about energy really. I just, you know, how much is that? And it'd just be fun to like get like a UFC punching machine, and then just measure how hard each arrow hits at like 40 yards, like just to see. But maybe if I ever make it like to a millionaire on YouTube, I'll just buy my own machines and then I'll just spend my days testing shit. Yeah, I'll just have you build all the arrows because I'll probably be breaking a bunch of them. Exactly. Man, I'm shooting good today. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Right. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. That's Yeah, it's there's just so many different variables, but I think as we keep testing and growing here, we're eventually going to get it down. And I am shocked as hell that no one's actually sat down and already has this on the internet and figured it out. But it's it is really surprising. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. 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 For sure. I'll leave that to you. Yeah. I graduated in algebra too, so this was over my head after this times that times this. That was about the end of my ability for math. So I'm not gonna be much help on that. Yeah. Yeah, no, we could just plan on doing another podcast, do like a part two of advanced aero building math, and just yeah, there you go. Thanks, man. Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, and that's yeah, I would love that. And thanks for the huge compliment, man. I mean, that's what we strive for, or I strive for. I keep saying we like I'm a like a team. It's just just a solo rider, but yeah, yeah. Well, be hopefully before I die, there's somebody that creates a standardized test for individuals to go out and test broadheads and arrows and setups and stuff like this. Because it would be so nice to have a standardized test, like an IBO for a bow. Why don't we have that for performance for everything else in archery? I don't know. I geek out on it, and there's no perfect test out there right now, and it just drives me bonkers. So, but yep, You'd think. Well, I, I'm going to throw this out there. I was doing a bunch of research after seeing all these manufacturers be way off on their IBO speeds. Some of them, not all of them. And it's just interesting because if you look at Hoyt, they go off of ATA. And a lot of these other manufacturers are IBO. Well, the only difference there is that IBO says 5 grains per pound. It doesn't say how many pounds. It says 5 grains per pound, right? But people have tied that to the standard 70 pounds, 30-inch arrow, and that's what everybody does. 20 or yeah, that's the formula. But IBO says typically 5 grains per pound. And then so I think that's how some of these companies are saying, okay, well, let's do 5 grains per pound at 70 pounds or 75 pounds. And that's our IBO. Like that's what we are. And so, I don't think they're being completely honest about that. And one thing about Hoyt is ATA strictly says 5 grains per pound, 70 pounds, 30, they have all the requirements. It's just, they just don't cap it at 5 grains per pound. And that's why I believe Hoyt uses the ATA. It's not a different measuring scale. It's the same thing. It's FPS and everything, but kind of interesting when you start comparing the ATA versus the IBO. And so, Hoyt's never been accused of being over exaggerating on their IBOs that I know of. I mean, they're always. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd like to see like a rangefinder says plus or minus 1 yard. It'd be nice if manufacturers had plus or minus 2 feet per second or something like that. When you're off 10 to 15 feet per second, that's not cool. That's not cool. So yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. But that's a whole nother conversation, man. So let's leave people with a few places where they can find you. Give yourself a plug, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Hmm. Cool. Hmm. Yeah. Sweet, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. I'll plan on just having you back here within another month or two, hopefully, and we'll go over a 2.0. What, like you said, like we can go over so much more stuff. Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I'm kind of simple Jack when it comes to the numbers and stuff. So, it's nice having somebody be more, technical with their language and be able to explain it into like an engineer, man. I mean, you're going to be able to break it down way better than I can. So, I appreciate you having coming on the show. I appreciate all the work that you've done with the equations, and I say it all the time on the podcast. I appreciate work ethic and I appreciate the attention to detail, and you've got both of those. And I think you're probably putting out a pretty damn good arrow. I haven't had you built me a set yet, but I wouldn't have any problems. Yeah, I wouldn't have any problems shooting something that you built. No worries. All right, guys, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up, but I'll see you probably in the future, Kyle.